A major scandal shook the European Union today. Audio recordings of a conversation between the head of Hungary's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Peter Szijjarto, and his Russian counterpart, Szijjarto-Lavrov, were leaked online. They concern the lifting of sanctions from influential Russians. In particular, in 2024, Lavrov asks Szijjarto to work towards lifting European sanctions from certain Russian oligarchs and their wives. Szijjarto promises to resolve this issue together with the Slovaks, and lo and behold, a few months later the European Union actually lifts the sanctions from the specified individuals, but the paradox is that the EU turned out to be powerless. The Hungarian minister did not deny the wiretapping. Szijjarto himself stated that he wouldn't even deny the fact that he has been serving the Russians for years. He stated that foreign intelligence agencies, with the participation of Hungarian journalists, have been eavesdropping on his phone conversations for some time, and he won't hide anything, like what's the big deal? So what? What are you going to do to me for it? At the same time, Hungary is blocking a 90 billion euro loan to Ukraine. And today, Kaja Kallas, who came to Kyiv, honestly admitted that the European Union cannot provide this loan to Ukraine because of Viktor Orban's position, which they can't do anything about. Now the United States is actively lifting sanctions against the Russian Federation without even making excuses. I'm Alexei Pecci. Let's discuss this topic. But before we start this episode, I ask you to support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation, paid subscription, or sponsorship on YouTube. How can you do that? All links and details are in this video's description. At the end of the episode, if you find it interesting and useful, you can make a donation in whatever way is most convenient for you. There are, believe me, different platforms. There are bank details, crypto wallets, PayPal, and Patreon. Buy me a coffee and YouTube sponsorship as well. In short, you'll definitely find something that suits you. And also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pecci News. The link to it is also in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as soon as it comes in. So, at the beginning of the episode, let me remind you of the context. Recently, the Washington Post reported that Hungary's foreign minister, Peter Szijjarto, regularly kept in touch with Sergei Lavrov during breaks in the meetings, at European Council meetings in Brussels. Because of such close communication, Russia was effectively present at the negotiating table at every European Union meeting for many years. Later, Szijjarto admitted that yes, he regularly contacts Lavrov during closed EU Council meetings. And he basically added like, what are you going to do about it? He says, so what are you going to do? Yes, I'm paraphrasing, yes. I'm at a European Union meeting, immediately calling Lavrov to report what we're discussing. He just says, so what next? Today, audio recordings of a conversation between Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto and Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov are being leaked online. They involve lifting sanctions on influential Russians. And first, I'll show you the original of this video, this audio recording, and then we'll translate everything together and definitely go through it all.
Hello. Hello, Sergey. This is Peter. Yes, I'm in St. Petersburg. Where are you?
I've already arrived in Budapest, huh?
Yes.
Yes, already.
You were in all the headlines across Russian media today.
Oh, I didn't.
No. They were just saying that you are pragmatically fighting for the interests of your country.
Well, that's a very, let's say, nice analysis of the situation.
Nice way to put it.
And fair. Look,
I am calling at Elisa's request, and he just asked me to remind you that you were doing something about his sister.
Mrs. Ismailova?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. Together with the Slovaks, we are submitting a proposal to the European Union to delist her. We will submit it next week. And as the new review period is going to be started, it's going to be put on the agenda. And we will do our best in order to get her off.
Thank you very much. He would be really very pleased. He is seriously concerned about his sister, you can understand. And we highly appreciate your support and your fight for equality in A.
Yes, sphere. So, an hour after Szijjarto arrived in Budapest from St. Petersburg on August 30th, 2024, Lavrov called him. The head of the Russian Foreign Ministry recalled that the Russian oligarch Alisher Usmanov wants the European Union sanctions lifted from his sister Gulbakor Ismailova, and the Hungarian minister promised to help. Lavrov says, quote, Listen, I'm calling at Alisher's request. Listen, he asked me to remind you that you need to do something regarding his sister. In response, Peter Szijjarto noted that yes, he would help and explained that Hungary, together with Slovakia, is submitting a proposal to the European Union to remove Ismailova from the sanctions list. Szijjarto says, "We will submit it next week, and since a new review period will begin, this issue will be included on the agenda, and we will do everything possible to have her removed from the list." Szijjarto from the list. In addition, Szijjarto told Lavrov that he visited Gazprom's new headquarters in Russia, and in this phone conversation he added, quote, "I am always at your service." And miraculously, 7 months after this conversation, Ismailova was removed from the European sanctions list. And here, one of the European Union's intelligence officers stated that in his conversations with the Russian minister, Szijjarto appears submissive, almost sycophantic, just like a little child who is told, "Go do this," and he goes and does it. It is also noted that Ismailova was not the only case of sanctions being eased against influential Russians. Along with her, Russian businessman Vyacheslav Mashekanter and Russia's Minister of Sports Mikhail Dektyarev were also removed from the sanctions list. And there is every reason to believe that Szijjarto received this assignment from the Kremlin and carried it out. And here I want to note that this has become a tactic of the Hungarians and Slovaks. During the time when I briefly worked at the European Council, I heard from diplomats that in Hungary and Slovakia, they usually start any negotiations with such a long list of Russian names that they want to exclude from the sanctions list. Well, for example, during the last round of negotiations on extending sanctions against Russia in March of this year, Slovakia and Hungary started pressuring the European Union to remove Usmanov himself from the list. So, once again, the Russians' tactic is that they come to the EU meeting with a list of Russians that were dictated to them by the Kremlin and say, okay, we won't start the meeting and the vote until we go through this list. Let's remove someone from this list. If you don't remove anyone, then we simply won't negotiate. If someone is actually crossed off the sanctions list, Hungary and Slovakia report this to the Kremlin and immediately cast their vote in favor of the EU decision. Or, as happened, for example, in 2023, Viktor Orban simply leaves the meeting room to have some coffee and the decision is made without him. So, this is already a well-practiced tactic of the Hungarians and Slovaks. It's important to note that Szijjarto isn't worried about being held accountable. The Hungarian minister didn't deny the wiretapping. According to him, foreign intelligence agencies, with the participation of Hungarian journalists, are constantly wiretapping him. And he summed up his reaction in one ironic phrase, quote, "Today, the people listening in made another big discovery. They proved that I say the same things publicly as I do on the phone. Well, just excellent work." Szijjarto stated that for 4 years he has been openly saying the same thing. The sanctions policy has failed and is causing more harm to the European Union than to the Russians. Hungary will never agree to sanctions against those who are important for the energy security of their country. Those whose inclusion simply does not make sense in the opinion of the Hungarians will also not be added to the sanctions list. And finally, Szijjarto mockingly added that the published list of intercepted conversations is actually not complete. According to him, he regularly negotiates specifically about sanctions with the foreign ministers of several countries that are not part of the EU. At the same time, the European Union still cannot confidently say that the €90 billion loan for Ukraine will be provided. The head of European Union diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, who arrived in Kiev today, stated that there are currently some obstacles regarding the adoption of the 20th package of sanctions against Russia and the allocation of the loan for Ukraine. Here is her quote. "Work is underway to overcome these obstacles, but unfortunately today I cannot give you any good news about this loan being granted. That is why we continue to work and hope that by the next meeting of the European Council this decision will be made. But still, we know exactly what this obstacle is called. It is Hungary which is abusing its status as an EU and NATO country, blocking and thus holding the entire European Union hostage. I ask you to support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation, paid subscription, or sponsorship on YouTube. How to do this? All the links and details are in the description of this video, and subscribe to my Telegram channel Peachy News. The link to it is also in the description of this video.